Hey guys, Plonkerboy900 here with the final episode of the AlteRed monotype series. It's been a really great 6 months, so thank you to everyone who's watched these videos, and if you found my channel because of this series, then welcome. As I said though, today is the final installment of this series. Today we find out, can you beat Pokemon AlteRed using only fighting types? Fighting type Pokemon are usually associated with having strong physical attack and good bulk, but on the flip side they usually have low special attack and speed. While I'm sure that my team will have a lot of Pokemon that fit this description, I'm going to try and diversify this team as much as possible with secondary typings and hopefully even a special attacker. The rules for this challenge are on screen now, but are basically the same as always. I'm going to try and keep this video shorter if possible, as at the end of this video I'll be doing a quick leaderboard style rundown of what I thought the best types were and my personal favourite Pokemon from those types, so stay tuned to the end to see that. Also, shout out goes to these people for finding the dabbing Delibird in the last video. He's in this one too, so if you see him just comment down below with the timestamp for a chance to be featured next time. Okay, without any further ado, let's get this final show on the road. I start the game picking the male character this time and call him Ray. Comment down below if you get the reference, and we don't mention season 2. I name our rival Zwigo because I love it when people comment, "Why do you hate Zwigo?" even though we're friends. Now normally I would start by catching the starter, but in this case I actually find a Pokemon I wanted to use first, that being a Strentrit. Yes, that means there's going to be Ferret memes. I also catch a Tufkip, and you already know what I'm going to nickname this thing. That's right, we now have a buff Zwigo. I then take on the first gym leader Brock, but this was about as easy as it could possibly be. Our fighting types are super effective against Rock, so we basically sweep through his entire team thanks to Karate Chop and Low Kick. Overall, pretty easy first gym. I then evolve Tuffclip into a Mushclomp, and now it's time for Lord Helix's words of wisdom. A romantic relationship is a lot like a jacuzzi. Bad, but fun. I then take on Zwigo before facing the second gym, but again this was quite easy. Egon is up first and goes down in 2 Rock Tombs, and Prakuna is up next. It just goes down in 2 low kicks though, and next up is Stalagmite, who is weak to fighting, so after hitting a weak Icicle Spear, gets taken out in a single Karate Chop from Strentrit. His final Pokemon is Fertile, so I switch back into Buff Zwigo, and go for the low kick. It really doesn't do that much though, and he goes for the defense curl, but we're able to bring it all the way down to red health before he puts us to sleep with a sleep powder, and we just wake up before getting taken out ourselves, and we get the win. Misty's next and was also quite easy. Fomal's up first but is part normal type, so it goes down in a single Mark Punch from Strentrit, and the fairy type Syrinx is up next. We are weak to fairy, but she goes for the Water Pulse instead, which we easily take and hit back with a Wood Hammer. This is an easy one-hit KO, and her next Pokemon Goldtide also goes down in a single hit. We're now down to her final Pokemon Tartler, who hits a takedown which we just survive, and hit back with a Rock Tomb to lower its speed, and we even get a critical hit. This does mean that she heals up though, but I can still hit a Wood Hammer for really solid damage, leaving her on a sliver of health as we go down to the recoil. I could just switch into Strentrit though, and I know she's going to heal up again, which she does, so I go for the knockoff, which actually does huge damage. We then easily survive an Aqua Jet and take it out with one more knockoff for the win. Before doing anything else I catch a Meowxie, which no is not a fighting type, but there's another in-game trade. In return you get a Thundursa. It's nicknamed Raikuma, which I think is a Danganronpa reference. I mean, the original trainer is even called Junko. It's only pure electric type at the moment, but when it evolves it becomes part fighting, so I'm really looking forward to using this. We also evolve Strentrit into a Fur Arm, and take on the third gym leader, Lieutenant Surge. Once again though, this wasn't really a difficult fight. Elix is up first, so I go for the dig, but he actually makes a clever play here and goes into Fearolt, who's immune to ground moves. He then hits a powerful Drill Peck, but we still hang on, and in return I hit a Bite for small damage, before going down to another Drill Peck. I switch in Fur Arm though, and unfortunately we miss the Rock Tomb, as we have the ability Hustle, which lowers our accuracy. We don't miss the second one though, and it goes down from there, and Linode is also a one-hit KO. His next 2 Pokemon, Elix and Blitzus, both go down in one hit as well, and we're already down to his final Pokemon, Moroth, who hits a Volt Tackle which we just survived with 4 health remaining, and 1 Brick Break is all we need to seal the deal, winning us badge number 3. I can see Fur Arm being quite good. I evolve Raikuma into a Thorsaring, and as you can see it's now part fighting. It's a bit of a mixed attacker as well, and just look at that defense. That's not the only Pokemon we evolve though, we also evolve our starter. Now you can see why I called this thing Buff Swiggo. We then take on the 4th Gym Leader Erica, but I'm not even going to waste your time with this one. We literally one-shot sweep her entire team with Fur Arm, as we have the move Aerial Ace, which is super effective, and it can't miss either, which means it's perfect thanks to our ability. Honestly, this was the easiest gym fight so far. We then take on Giovanni and Zwiggo as always, and before facing the 5th gym, I catch my last 3 team members. The first of which is a Core Fist, dodgy name, which is pure fighting at the moment but becomes part fire, and I also catch a Q-Blade, and evolve it into the fighting Dragon type Bladowhack. I also evolve Core Fist into a Samurant, and then catch my 6th and final member, Sizel. This is a fighting Steel type, and has the ability Pure Power. This doubles the attack stat, so you just know this thing is going to be pretty overpowered. I evolve it into a Cunevile, and take on the 5th Gym Leader Koga. As always, this is a double battle, and this could be an issue as Poison does resist fighting. He starts off with the usual suspects, so I lead off with Buff Swiggo and Raikuma, and go for a bite on the Metaclops for small damage, and then one-hit KO the Noxiora with a Thunder Punch. Taintuck is up next as Metaclops flinches, and next turn I go for the dig with Buff Swiggo, as I hit another Thunder Punch. It does about 50% to the Taintuck, as he goes for the Acid Armor, and Metaclops misses a tickle. Dig hits and brings Metaclops down to red health, as I hit another Thunder Punch on the Taintuck to bring it down to KO range, as he hits back with a Poison Tail. He gets a crit but it still hardly does anything, and Metaclops sets up the spikes. He then of course fully heals up the Metaclops as I go for another dig, and I hit a Thunder Punch on the Metaclops to do about 45% of its health, and from there Dig is enough to finish off the Taintuck, as Nefario comes out next. One more Thunder Punch brings Metaclops down to a sliver, as he hits back with a weak Acid Spray, and then fully heals up again. Nefario then hits a weak Poison Jab, as I go for the Brick Break. It does just over half, as I hit another Thunder Punch on the Metaclops, and we get the Paralysis too. We take out the Nefario with one more Brick Break, and Plagueon comes out next, as I bring Metaclops back down to red health with another Thunder Punch, and from there I can take it out with one more, as I go for the dig with Buff Swiggo once again. His final new Pokemon Glimpale comes out, as Plagueon misses the Toxic, and then Glimpale misses the Poison Fang as well, as Dig lands. It brings Plagueon down to a sliver of health, as I land a Thunder Punch on the Glimpale, and Plagueon hits back with a Sludge Bomb. It does unfortunately take out Buff Swiggo thanks to a crit, so I switch in Fur Arm, who gets hit by another Poison Fang. I can then go for an Aerial Ace though to finish off the Glimpale, and one more Thunder Punch is all we need to take out the Plagueon, and we win ourselves the 5th badge. That was actually not as difficult as I was expecting. We now deal with Team Rocket in the Silphco building, and face off against Zwiggo once again. Stalacton is up first, so I lead off with Bladowhack, and I can outspeed and go for the Brick Break, which is just an easy one-hit KO. Talamence is up next, so I switch into Raikuma, and again we get an easy one-shot, thanks to a critical hit Thunder Punch. I switch back into Bladowhack for Chernobyl, and go for the Dragon Claw, which does about half its health, as we easily take a Flamethrower. I can then finish it off with one more Dragon Claw, and I switch into Samurant for his next Pokemon Grastoise. I go for Fire Punch, as he thankfully misses the Sleep Powder, and Fire Punch is going to be an easy 2-hit KO, as he actually misses for a second time, meaning we can take it out with one more. His final Pokemon is also weak to fire, so I just stay in and go for another Fire Punch, which is just an easy one-shot, so we beat Zwiggo once again. I don't normally cover this Giovanni fight, but seeing as this is the last time I'm going to play this game, I suppose I'll narrate this fight just one more time. Leviatops is up first, so I lead off with Bladowhack, and he outspeeds but just hits a weak Water Pulse, as I one-shot in return with a Dragon Claw. More Venus is up next, so I switch to Samurant, and we bring it down to a sliver with a Fire Punch, but he actually gets burned as well. This means Crunch does hardly anything, and the burn damage finishes it off. He sends in Drillgeo next, so I switch in Fur Arm, who starts setting up the double teams. This combined with our hustle ability means that there's really no chance of us hitting a Brick Break here, and we end up missing 3 times in a row. We do finally hit though, and when we do it's just an easy KO, and next up is Lasplug. Another Brick Break brings it down to a sliver, as he goes for a weak Flash Cannon, and then fully heals up with a Hyper Potion, so a mixture of Aerial Ace and Brick Break are all we need, and Sevum just goes down in a single Aerial Ace as well. His final Pokemon is the terrifying Amalgaform, so I just switch into Bladowack and go for a Dragon Claw, which to be honest doesn't do that much as he goes for Assist and gets the move Drill Run, which almost takes us out thanks to a crit, but one more Dragon Claw brings it down to KO range, and then he just goes for Transform. This means we can take it out with one more Dragon Claw, and we beat Giovanni once again. Next up is Sabrina though, who uses Psychic types, which our fighting types are weak against. Cloystar is up first, so I start with Buff's Wiggo, and go straight for the Bite for about 50% of its health, as she goes for the Reflect. I get rid of it with a Brick Break though, and then I hit another Bite, and we actually get a critical hit, which takes her out from there. Houndourami's up next, so I switch in Raikuma, and I was hoping we could survive a Psychic, but she gets a critical hit to take us out, so I switch in Cunnival, and go for the Jump Kick. Even with it being a resisted hit, it brings it down to red health, as she just goes for Calm Mind. She then fully heals, but 2 Smart Strikes are all we need to take it out, and next up is Zenchamp, so I stay in. We go for another Smart Strike and get a lucky crit for an easy one-shot, and next up is Pyroxeno. Not Doris, I finally said it right, I think. Either way, I switch in Bladowack, and one-hit KO with a Dragon Claw. We also learn the move Sword Strike, which is basically just a better Brick Break, as Sparkori comes out next. It just goes down in a single Dragon Claw as well though, and last up is Solnova. This thing is not resistant to fighting, so I go for Sword Strike, and it actually does huge damage as she just goes for Light Screen. I'm using physical moves, so this doesn't bother me in the slightest, so one more Sword Strike takes it out with an unnecessary crit, and we win Gym Badge number 6. Let's move straight on to Blaine, who to be honest wasn't really a problem. Explobat's up first, so I lead off with Fur Arm, and once again he starts going for Double Team. This means that we miss a Thunder Punch, as he goes for one more Double Team. We do actually hit this time though, but he just hangs on, and then of course fully heals the next turn. So I go for the Aerial Ace and we actually just bring it back down to red health with the crit, and then easily survive a Wing Attack, and take it out with one more. Stunplace is up next and just goes for Leech Seed, so we can just hit back with a super effective Aerial Ace for an easy KO, and next up is Samurant. It takes massive damage from an Aerial Ace, but we unfortunately get taken out by a Brick Break, so I just switch in Bladowack to finish it off with a Dragon Claw, and next up is Necrotomic. I stay in and hit another Dragon Claw, which actually does huge damage thanks to another crit, as he hits back with a Soul Steal, and takes us out from full health. Thankfully though, Samurant has the move Crunch, but because of the health he got back with this berry, he actually just survives on a tiny sliver of health, and then fully heals once again. We did get the defense drop though with Crunch, so we only need 2 more to take it out, and next up is Sotillery. A single Brick Break does about 40%, as he hits back with a Sludge Bomb and gets the poison as well, so I go for the Crab Hammer, but because of the sun it really doesn't do as much as I was hoping for, but he ends up missing the Overheat. This means I can take it out with one more Brick Break, and he only has one Pokemon left, that being Foritia. He actually ends up missing the Stone Edge, which means I can hit a Crab Hammer, which even with the sun, does huge damage thanks to being 4 times super effective, but we do unfortunately go down to a Stone Edge the next turn, but I can just switch in Cunnival and go for the priority Mach Punch, which is an easy KO, no questions asked, and that's now 7 badges in our collection, just 1 more left to go. That of course being Giovanni once again, who starts off with Medearth and Cragler, so I lead off with Fur Arm and Raikuma. I go for the Ice Punch on the Medearth for an easy 1-hit KO, I think that's the first time that thing's ever gone down in 1 hit, and next up is Excali. Raikuma has the move Surf because it can learn it for some reason, which hits both Pokemon for great damage, as Cragler hits back with an Earthquake. This does big damage to both Pokemon, but he actually almost takes out his own Excali in the process, and heals it up the next turn. I can just easily 1-hit KO with a Brick Break though, and Severm is up next. Raikuma goes for another Surf which takes out the Cragler, so he sends in Drillgeo next, who outspeeds and takes us both out with an Earthquake, while doing some good damage to Severm. I send in Buffs Wiggo and Cunnival, as Severm hits a Drill Run which unfortunately just takes us out from full health, so I send in Bladowack. Drillgeo goes for the Curse, as I easily take out the Severm with a Dragon Claw, and his final new Pokemon Kadaroa comes out, as I go for the Brick Break. It does about 50% to Drillgeo, so next turn I can just hit it with a Sword Strike, which takes it out from there, and now it's just a 2-on-1. Kadaroa does take us out with an Ice Punch though, so I send in my final new Pokemon Samurant, as Buffs Wiggo goes for a Brick Break for decent damage, and from there we just easily tank one more Ice Punch, and one more Brick Break is all we need to get the win, and we now have all 8 badges. Before we can take on the Pokemon League though, we have to face Wigo once more, who starts off with the Talent, so I lead off with Fur Arm, and go straight for the Thunder Punch, which does about 75%. He hits back with a Brave Bird though, which does unfortunately take us out from full health, but he hits himself in recoil, and takes himself out as well. I guess that was a fair trade-off. I switch in Bladowack as next up is Stalacola, and I just go straight for the Sword Strike, which is an easy one-hit KO, and next up is Sense Leash. This is a Dragon type, so it's weak to Dragon Claw, so I outspeed and go for it, and much to my surprise, it takes it out from full health. Next up is Bristol, so I switch into Buff Swigo, and would it really be an AlteRed video if he didn't try to set up with a Swords Dance, only to get wrecked by an Earthquake? Chernobel's up next, so I switch into Bladowack, and go for the Sword Strike, which actually does huge damage, as he just goes for Smokescreen. This means that we do unfortunately miss the next turn though, and then hit with the Flamethrower for a small amount, but we don't miss the second time, and we can take it out with one more. We now just have to face his final Pokemon, which is his starter Grastoise, so I switch into Samurant, who gets hit by a Drain Punch, as we retaliate with a Fire Punch. Not only does it do over half its health, but we also get the burn, and he doesn't even try and heal it up, he just goes for the full heal instead of a Hyper Potion, so we just take it out with one more Fire Punch, and we win. Come on Zwigo, even you're better than that. We beat Zwigo once again, and here's a look at our final team. As with the Dark and Psychic types, I've got to say this has been a really strong team. This is definitely giving Dark type a run for its money, as one of the best types so far. Will this team be strong enough to take on the Elite Four though? Well, for the last time, let's find out. First up is Ice type user Lorelei, and this was actually quite an easy fight for once, as our fighting types are super effective. I lead off with Carnivile and Fur Arm, and go straight for the Smart Strike on Torchill, which actually brings it down to red health, as I go for a Brick Break on the Erupt Ice, which also brings it down to red health. She then goes for the Cosmic Power and then Weather Ball, but there's no weather, so it hardly does any damage. And next turn she fully heals, but only Torchill. This means that we can take out the Erupt Ice from there, and Blizz Maiden comes out next, as I get a critical hit Brick Break to take out the Torchill. Next up is Freeze-Orb though, so I hit a 4x super effective Smart Strike on the Blizz Maiden for an easy one-shot, and as Cool Catty comes out, I go for the Brick Break on the Freeze-Orb, which also takes it out from full health. We're already down to our final new Pokemon Golacia, as she just goes for the X special, as Cool Catty goes for the Protect, but thankfully I went for the high jump kick on the Golacia instead, which is an easy one-hit KO. It's now just a 2-on-1, but Cool Catty is 4x weak to fighting, so a single Mach Punch from Carnivile is all we need, and we beat Lorelei. That was definitely the easiest Lorelei fight I've ever done. Okay, come on Bruno, this is your final chance to prove yourself. We're both using fighting types, we're on a level playing field. Surely this is not going to be an easy fight. Oh, okay, never mind. We basically just 1 or 2 shot his entire team again. Okay Bruno, I think it's time for you to hand in your resignation. You're just not fit to be an Elite Four member. By comparison, Agatha was actually a lot more difficult, as ghost types are immune to fighting. Zotem's up first, so I lead off with Carnivile, and we have the super effective Smart Strike, which actually takes it out from full health. Claypore is up next, so I switch in Raikuma and go for the Thunder Punch, which again does a very respectable amount, as she goes for the Glare. She then goes for the Hex, which does do some good damage, but she heals our paralysis, and we can take it out with one more Thunder Punch. Nobodinja is up next, but is also weak to Smart Strike, so one of those sees to that thing no problem, and next up is Pellastorm. I switch in Buff Swigo, who unfortunately gets outspared, and hit with a Confuse Ray, but we don't hit ourselves in confusion, and a single Earthquake is all we need. Hypnoplasm is up next, so I switch in Samurant, and go for the super effective Crunch, which does about half its health, and we get the defense drop too. She does unfortunately put us to sleep though with the Hypnosis, and then hits a super effective Dream Eater for good damage, followed by a Terror Wave. We survive on red health though, and we just wake up in time to hit one more Crunch, which leaves her on a sliver of health as she goes for another Dream Eater. Thankfully it fails because we're awake, but she does proceed to fully heal with a full restore, but I can just hit 2 more Crunches to take it out, and we're down to her final Pokemon Snorcest, so I stay in and go for another Crunch. It does just under half as we get taken out by a Soul Steal, so I switch in Bladowack and go for the Dragon Claw, which is just not quite enough to take it out as we get hit by an Ice Punch, but we're just able to hang on, and I know she's going to fully heal, so I go for the Swords Dance, and then hit another Dragon Claw, which again just leaves her on a tiny sliver of health, as she takes us out with a second Ice Punch. I switch into Fur Armor, she heals up again, and Aerial really doesn't do that much. So I switch over to Thunder Punch and we even get the paralysis, as she hits another Ice Punch, but she actually gets the freeze, which means I need to get out of there. I switch into Raikuma, she goes for a full heal, and then hit another Thunder Punch, which doesn't do as much as I was hoping, and she goes for rest. This thing is actually really annoying. I decide to switch in Carnivile, as it is my hardest hitting Pokemon, and as you can see, Smart Strike is not even doing half, which means we're just not able to take it out before she wakes up and goes for another rest. But this time we are just able to take it out before she wakes up, and we finally beat Agatha. Things got a little bit tough at the end there. The final member of the Elite Four is Lance, and again this is a double battle as always. He starts off with Flarados and Drakeperia, so I lead off with Carnivile and Fur Arm, and I easily one-hit KO the Flarados with a high jump kick, as Forestar comes out next. I hit an Ice Punch on the Drakeperia, which actually doesn't do as much as I was expecting it to, as he hits back with a Meteor Mash, and gets the attack boost too. He then goes for the priority Dragon Tail, but it doesn't really do that much, as I hit another high jump kick, which brings it down to KO range, as I bring Forestar down to red health with an Ice Punch. Forestar then goes for a Fire Fang to take out Carnivile, so I send in Samurant, as he fully heals the next turn. Another Ice Punch brings it down to red health though, and then I was hoping a Brick Break would take out the Drakeperia, but he just hangs on red health too. He just goes for spikes though, so one Aerial from Fur Arm can take out the Forestar from there, and Leviatops comes out next, as Drakeperia hits another Meteor Mash, before being knocked out by a Brick Break. Wyveldo comes out next, and has Intimidate as well, as unfortunately Fur Arm gets taken out by a Dragon Claw, so I send in Raikuma. Samurant hits a Brick Break on the Leviatops, and we even get a critical hit for a one-shot, and his final new Pokemon is Thunderius. Wyveldo hits a Draco Meteor for big damage on Samurant, as I go for the Thunder Punch, but I actually forgot that Thunderius has Lightning Rod, which means he gets hit instead, and it hardly does anything. I then hit a Brick Break, but that too does next to nothing, as he hits back with an Ice Beam. Wyveldo then goes for an Earthquake, which is actually super effective against all three Pokemon on the field. It takes out Samurant and does some good damage to Raikuma, but he does a lot to Thunderius as well. I switch in Bladoack and go for a Dragon Claw on the Thunderius, which thankfully can take it out from there, and now we just need to deal with Wyveldo, who gets hit by a Thunder Punch. He hits back with another Draco Meteor, but it's massively weakened now, so we still survive, and from there one more Dragon Claw is all we need, and we've beaten Lance. All we need to do now is beat the champion Zwigo for the final time. As always in this fight, he starts off with a Dust Sharp, who is 4 times weak to fighting, so literally any of my Pokemon can take this thing out. I actually take this opportunity to set up a Swords Dance with Bladoack, as he just goes for Cosmic Power, so we can easily take it out the next turn with a Sword Strike, and next up is Stalicola. Of course I stay in though and just take it out with another Sword Strike. Trust me, that crit did not matter, and Eldraine is up next. Normally this thing is really difficult to beat, but no, this time it just goes down in a single Dragon Claw. Bladoack is actually really good. Next up is Talament, so I go for a Sword Strike, but he just hangs on the tiniest sliver of health, and goes for the Brave Bird. Again though, this move does recoil, so he takes himself out as well, so I'm not gonna lie, Bladoack really put in work there. I switch in Carnivile as he sends out Grass next, and go straight for the high jump kick, which does a huge amount of damage, but he retaliates with an Earthquake, which easily takes us out from full health. I send in Samurant though just to finish it off with a Fire Punch, but not before we get hit by another Earthquake, but we easily take the hit and take it out with one more Fire Punch, and we're down to his final Pokemon, Chernobyl. I switch in Buff Zwigo, and go straight for the Earthquake as he hits a Heat Wave, which we actually survive with ease. To be honest though, our Earthquakes really aren't doing too much either, so I go for the Bite just to make sure he doesn't heal up, and I was hoping we could survive a third Heat Wave, but unfortunately we don't, so I just send in Fur Arm. I go for the Brick Break, but he survives on the tiniest sliver of health, and hits back with another Heat Wave, and then of course fully heals up the next turn. I'm able to bring it back down to red health though with 2 more Brick Breaks, as he unfortunately gets the burn with a Heat Wave, which means while we did just survive, we just get taken out by the burn damage. I send in Raikuma though and go for the Surf, as he goes for yet another full restore, but Surf is actually doing over half, and we actually outspeed. That means we can hit one more Surf, and that's all she wrote. Chernobyl goes down and we beat Zwigo, and beat Pokemon AlteRed, using only fighting types. Well, there we have it. Overall, I have to say, the team did really well. In fact, all 3 of the Generation 3 types did particularly well against this game. If I'm being honest, Swalpert was probably the worst starter of the bunch. It didn't really bring too much to the table, it had good defenses, but Fur Arm basically just did everything that it could do, but better. Carnivile was a great sweeper thanks to its pure power ability, and I think the best member of the team was probably Bladoack. It had some decent speed and it just hit really hard. Overall, this was a really solid team, but how did it compare to the others? I've done 9 monotype runs now, so the question is, which do I think were the best? Well, it all started with the traditional starter types, fire, grass and water. Of those 3, water was definitely the best, with my personal favourite water types being Swashbull and Sea Lizard. Then came the second generation starters, which brought us the types Ice, Steel and Ground. Overall, these were probably the weakest set of starters in the game, but in particular the Ice type really shone for me. Frostigator was a great Pokemon, not to mention a great design, and Frigiot was an absolute powerhouse. But to be honest, that's expected, as it is the pseudo-legendary of the game. And finally came the Generation 3 starters, with their Dark, Psychic and Fighting types. Honestly, these were the strongest set of starters in the entire game. Stripetile and Blaziken were both great individually, with only Swalpert really being the weak link. Even then though, it definitely had the best design of the 3, so I guess that's something. Of the last 3 types, while they were all really good, I think Dark still just about comes out on top, and there's only one pick here for the strongest team member, that of course being Heartlisk, as you can get it really early. It has a base 130 attack stat, and it's also quite fast. Not to mention its Dark and Fairy stab types being almost unresisted. So those are my 3 favourite types, Water, Ice and Dark. Out of those 3 though, which is the best? As much as I love Ice types, I think I'm gonna have to give it to the Dark type. Both my Water and Ice type teams had some weak links, but every single Pokemon on my Dark type team was great. So honestly, I think it's worthy of the title of the best type in AlteRed. Thank you all so much for watching this series. The response has been amazing, and the channel's been doing really well since I uploaded these videos, so it's obvious to me that a lot of you guys really enjoyed these runs. This may be the end of the series, but I hope you'll look forward to the videos I'm going to make on AlteRed's upcoming sequel, Varia Blue. There's no release date just yet, but as soon as I get my hands on that game, I'll be sure to start recording some videos. If you guys enjoyed this video, then please consider leaving a like, and subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. We recently hit 28,000 subscribers, which is amazing, and we're getting even closer to the goal of 30,000 by the end of the year. Honestly, thank you all so much for the continued support. If you want to check out this game for yourself, then you can find the link to the creator's Discord in the description below. Make sure to tell him that you came from this video. That's all I've got for you today, so as always, thank you all so much for watching. Until next time.